Keith Sanchez, Paige, Dimakos. The Draft Club is in New Orleans at the Super Bowl, and we are about to give them the blueprint of how to make it to the Super Bowl. Paige, Dimakos. Let's start at the very top with some people that I know that you want to talk about, right, and understand and identify the owners, right? And that's a big part of it. So let's start at the very top with the owners. What are you looking for in ownership from the very top to help trickle down and get to this process?
I'm looking for owners that stay out of the way, okay? Because the ones that are in the way, they ain't here at the Super Bowl.
Nope, they're not
Jerry
there.
Jones, I'm looking at you, big dog. You in the way. You get yourself in the way and you get yourself in trouble when you don't allow the people that you've hired to do their jobs, right? And that's the biggest part of this with ownership that's become a problem, and you've seen it increasingly become a problem over the last 15 years with more media, with more radio, with more coverage. Everybody likes the limelight, right? But you know what I like more than limelight? Winning. And that's what you should be doing, winning and making money, okay? Because guess what? When you're winning, you're making money. And the Hunt family, the Chiefs family, they have stayed out the way. When you hear about the Hunts on TV, you don't. When you hear about the Hunts doing radio shows, you don't. When you hear about that stuff, you do not. Because you know why? Pat Mahomes is the star. Andy Reid is the star. Travis Kelce is the star. You don't need to make it about you because it's not about you. You get to reap all the benefits behind the scenes. You get to stack Super Bowl wins and Super Bowl rings. I don't understand why this is so hard. It feels like I'm breaking news to people every time I say it. It's just logic. Stay out of the way, hire good people, and Keith, that's a recipe for any company's success, let alone ownership here in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, and I always talk about this with ownership, is that they get the benefit of making all the decisions and not having an answer for them, right? If a quarterback throws 3 interceptions, he still has to go his ass on the podium, right? And has to answer for it. If the head coach calls a stupid play or let time run out, right? Matt Eberflus, right? Guess what? He has to go answer for that. Ownership can hire, fire, make decisions, draft who they want, relocate a team, build a stadium, don't build a stadium, travel plans. They can do whatever the hell they want. And then guess what? They have the opportunity not to answer for it. And I think that's the biggest part, is that the owners, they able to fly under the radar. But I'll tell you this, that if your franchise has had multiple quarterbacks in the past few years, multiple head coaches in the past few years, multiple team presidents in a few years, even switch cities, and y'all still have a problem, it's not the head coaches, the players, it's you have an ownership problem at the end of the day. And I think that we have to start identifying that. You look at, go ahead.
I'm going to talk about my own city. Okay, I'm going to talk about my own city because the Chicago Bears have an ownership problem. And Virginia McCaskey, listen, she 101 years old. She's what she calls the princess of the NFL, right? Her dad, George Halas, was responsible for putting the league together. Right?
The princess of the NFL.
Yeah,
she kind of outgrew the princess.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But she's royalty of the NFL. When your dad is responsible for making the league, when your dad's on the NFC Championship trophy, I get why she feels some type of way. But guess what, Virginia? You don't know football, okay? You know some about football, and I respect that, especially as a woman that works in this industry. But you gotta hire people and get out of the way. You gotta get out of the way. And when you're talking about new team president, new GM, new head coach, how many times are you gonna recycle and do the same things before you learn, maybe it's about me? Be introspective. Try and realize what's going on. And I know a situation you and I talk about a lot is Jerry Jones. He is the poster child of this going wrong, right? And it's the difference between how he won before and how the league is now. Keith, that's what I want to talk about with you is like, he still thinks he's playing in the 90s. And it's not the same league. And I think it's important for fans to understand you got to hold him accountable for that, man.
So what the issue is with Jerry, he's identified that he's a good businessman, right? Without a doubt, he's a great businessman. 100%. And he took the old NFL model, which let me spend money and I'll make more money, right? It's buying stocks, it's purchasing anything of high investment, sit on it, right? That's bringing in Deion Sanders, that's bringing in Charles Haley, right? That's bringing in all of these different players to factor in, and I can buy my way to a Super Bowl. Great business decision in the 90s. But we are 30 years past the 90s, right? So the salary cap is now in place. And you know what that forces you to do? You have to draft and develop. And that's one thing that Jerry Jones, we can't say. I don't believe you're a football guy at the end of the day, right? You're a good businessman, but you're not a football guy. You have to really be in the trenches and evaluate talent, understand coaches, understand the different dynamics. You're not a football guy. You're a good businessman.
And I got something for you, Jerry. Football guys, okay? Football guys, we can help you out. And I mean that, all jokes aside, you got to get out of the family, you got to get out of the inner circle, and you got to find somebody you can trust. And I thought that was going to be Deion Sanders. I really, really thought he was going to do it. And I should have known better. I should have known better that he's going to be his own worst enemy. Because that coaching hire told you everything you need to know about Jerry Jones and how his decision-making happens. Because when you're talking about hiring a coach that wasn't calling plays, that was working underneath the coach that's won a Super Bowl that you got rid of, you got to make that shit make sense for me, man. Because that doesn't make any sense. And that's the part where I go, okay, listen, when your owner is on a radio spot every week, you won't lose. When your owner is breaking news about injuries for your team, you're gonna lose. So somebody better start showing up and start heckling Jerry Jones, because it's still Dallas Cowboys fans stop believing that they're a Super Bowl team and start holding him accountable. Nothing gonna change. I don't think it's gonna change.
100%. Another team, you talk about the repetitive nature, right? You throw in the Cleveland Browns. Yeah. The New York Jets, if you are a New York Jets fan, you should be sitting there saying, we have a big ownership problem. Yeah. Both Geno Smith and Sam Darnold both play for the New York Jets and were considered busts. They both got the hell out of New York, and they both are Pro Bowl quarterbacks today. That lets you know everything you need to know about culture and what an owner can do. But you brought up coaching. You brought up the coaches, and there's a trickle-down effect, right? We go ownership, you got GMs, you got coaches. I want to go back to GMs, but I want to talk about the combination of coaches in tandem with GMs, right? And what are some of the things when you talk about the three of them, right? Working in synchronicity. What is something that you're looking for in a head coach to run your franchise?
So for me, I think I lean on the experience I had with the Arizona Cardinals and how I watched Bruce Arians, Steve Kahn, Jason Light all work together. Then that tandem, Bruce Arians, Jason Light worked together in Tampa to make that team happen that ended up winning a Super Bowl. But the Cardinals that had the sustained success over the 5-year period, Bruce, NFC Championship game, playing, like winning the division in the toughest time. They were never won less than 10 games. Like always very good, always. That's what everybody's looking for, sustained success. How do you get there? You get there by everybody being on the same page. That means right now it's Brett Veach, right? You got Andy Reid, and you're committed at the top with the Hunts to a process. You're committed to your process. What is your process? What is your DNA? What is your football? And the owners don't meddle, the GMs don't meddle, and the coaches are accountable and hold up the standard for which they have to make sure that you can be a sustained success over and over and over again. And that includes being able to draft a quarterback, sit his ass for an entire year, tell him that he's not gonna play, okay, have an Alex Smith go to an AFC Championship game and then ship his ass out and go, oh, by the way, fans, we're going to be okay. We got somebody who's unproven. It took a lot of guts to do what they did. But guess what? They all were on the same page. They were all committed to the process. And there are many people that were in that room that were a part of drafting Mahomes. They've all talked about how everybody understood what they were doing. You got to all be rowing in the same direction, Keith, because if you're not, you're going to have guys that are undercutting people. You're going to have guys that are trying to get jobs other places. Like, it's always going to fall apart unless you're all committed to one vision, one plan, and you all follow that direction.
I agree, and we're going to show them how to work in tandem, right? You tackled the head coach, the head coach portion of that. I'm going to tackle the general manager portion of that. And there has to be a different ideology, right? Because me and you, we have tons of conversations off camera, and I always bring this up, that there's one Tom Brady for an entire generation. There's one Patrick Mahomes for an entire generation. General managers have to stop just taking swings and hoping that they land on a lottery pick as far as the best quarterback to ever live. Don't live in those margins. And I have some names that won Super Bowls right in the past 20 years that we simply gloss over. Nick Foles was a backup and won a Super Bowl. You had Trent Dilfer win a Super Bowl, right? You have Eli Manning who won 2 Super Bowls. You had Joe Flacco who's won a Super Bowl. Drew Brees has a Super Bowl. There are people outside of Tom Brady, right, and then want to say Aaron Rodgers that have won Super Bowls in the past 20 years, you have to get money in between. Stop trying to say that, you know what, I'm going all in, I need the quarterback, or it's bust. Because you know what's been happening? A lot of the teams have been busting. That's how you get a Zach Wilson. That guy had no business being drafted that early. Trey Lance, that's how you get a Trey Lance situation, because instead of taking good football players and building out the entire roster and then inserting quarterback when they're ready, they're just taking a swing at the fence of, I want the next Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes, he already plays for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's not playing for your team. Wrap that up.
And it's not only that, it's the situations that they're drafted to, right? Because Mahomes isn't Mahomes unless he gets drafted to the Chiefs. Because if the Bears had taken him and put him in right away, we're not getting the same guy you get right now. That matters. That part of it never gets discussed. Mahomes had the luxury of getting drafted to a AFC Championship roster where he didn't have to play for an entire year, where he gets to work and be behind Andy Reid, one of the best offensive minds in the NFL, in the history of the league. This is not a secret sauce. That's a lot of stuff that had to go right. And oh, by the way, Travis Kelce was the best tight end in the league when he came in. That all matters. That situation. Look at Tom Brady. What else was happening there? AFC Championship caliber team. Didn't have to play when he was a top defensive mind his entire career. Literally, they both got drafted into situations where they got to sit. They had top minds, they had really good rosters, and they weren't expected to play right away. So why on earth do we expect to get the result that they have by doing the exact opposite? A bad roster, bad coaches, drafting them and making them play right away. So you think you're going to do the exact opposite and get that result? Make that make sense to me. Make it make sense. It literally doesn't make any sense at all. And I feel like we're like just explaining logic, and fans are going to go, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense to play Caleb Williams right away with a coaching staff that's not all on the same page and expect that that's going to help him. It doesn't. And I think I'm waiting for people to start holding these guys accountable, because you're not going to get the results of Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady by doing the exact opposite of both the things that the franchises did to get there.
Yeah, I think, and I've always said this with the Patriots, but the Kansas City Chiefs are doing the exact same thing. They're showing everybody their right hand, right? And the right hand is Patrick Mahomes, and they're waving at everybody, and everybody's paying attention to the pretty thing in the room, Patrick Mahomes, while all along, they're building out the entire team. We do the same thing with Tom Brady. When we look back 10 years from now, Tom Brady would probably have played with 25 Hall of Fame defensive players. Yes. Nobody paid attention. And we picks up Darrelle Reeves. Yep. We overlooked that, right? Asante Samuel going there. Yep. We overlooked that. Richard Seymour, Vince Wilfork, Teddy Bruschi, Adam Vinatieri as a special teams guy. They have so many other Hall of Famers a part of their roster.
But you know why? This is a big part of it too. At no point were those guys the top paid quarterbacks either.
That's true.
That matters. It matters a lot, because you know how you can put together a roster? You put together a roster that's really good with really good football players when you get your quarterback to understand this is about winning. And I'm going to bring up the example, and you know where I'm going.
But I want to talk about it. Let's get in. I think, because I want to outline this for the fans, right? As we went through this, we talked about the general manager. We talked about ownership. We talked about the head coach. The next piece of that is the quarterbacks, right? And I want you to jump into this, because I think that it's very good to outline what is a committed quarterback to wanting to win Super Bowls.
Yeah. You can't look at Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and not understand or understate how they went about their business, okay? And they understand, guess what? To win is the most important thing to them. Off the field, they make more money and will make more money in endorsements than they made on the field. And what does that equal? That equals the flexibility with the salary cap to go out and get top-tier players to make sure you can go get Kareem Hunt, DeAndre Hopkins, all these guys along the way to put a top-tier roster to sign Chris Jones, to make sure you got money to make all these moves. And you know who can't do that? The Dallas Cowboys. You want to know why? Because you're going to pay Dak Prescott $89 million this year. You're paying CeeDee Lamb $34 million this year. Oh, by the way, you haven't even signed Micah Parsons. You can't sign your Chris Jones because you don't have enough money to do it. If you sign him to what he's projected to make, you will have 70% of your total cap on 3 players on a 53-man roster. It ain't happening. Yeah. It ain't happening. You can't win like that. It is not how you win.
I agree. And that's for a team that has proven that they can't draft and develop. Speaking of Michael Parsons, they fell into Michael Parsons being one of the top edge rushers. They put him at linebacker the first 3 years, right? And then they just needed an edge rusher, walk them down there. Like they made a mistake and got an all-pro. Yeah, they did that by mistake. That was not intentional. But I agree with you, even to the point where we talk about, okay, the commitment to winning and how do I get money in different places. Because you talked about the endorsement deals, right? But you know the other side of that? It's just simply free shit because everybody wants to be around a winner, right? So you go to a restaurant. You think Tom Brady pays for his meals? No shot in hell, right? So all of those things count up, right? I'm more than sure Tom Brady, meals and cars and everything else is probably set at another $15, $20 million in free shit.
You know who he got signed for? With Maybach. You don't think he ever paid for a car?
Thank you.
You know why that happened? Because he was winning. Because everybody wants to be associated with winning. You know that if Dak Prescott won with the Cowboys, do you have any idea what the endorsement deals would look like for that man? He wouldn't pay for shit anywhere, ever. And that's the part, it's not, and that's the part, it's like, I want the players to get paid, but I want you to understand something. There is a salary cap. So you can't sit down and say, I want to win as much as him, when the top quarterback in the league is getting paid a third of what you're getting paid. So this is just practicality. You got to understand, you're going to get paid $60 million. But if you're paid 89, you literally won't be able to sign your top defensive player and you're not gonna win shit. So I hope you enjoy sitting on the sidelines getting your ass whooped because it's not fun and it's not sustainable and it's gotta correct itself at some point.
No, I like that point. I'm about to bring up another, I guess, interesting point, right? When we talk about the selfishness of it and what is the culture of winning inside of a building. And when everybody becomes individuals, right, to where we're out to get us, then this is kind of where you land. When people are about winning, you land the other way with the Patrick Mahomes and the Tom Brady deals. But I want to flip it on his other side and say, if I'm Dak Prescott, and I'm not even say Dak, right? Numerous quarterbacks that play for bad franchises. What the hell have y'all done to convince me that if I take a pay cut, that y'all gonna do the right thing with the goddamn money, right? And so I think that's why we started at the very top, ownership. Ownership has to show that they're competent people and they still have to recruit their guys. Like, listen, I'm making the right moves. I'm making the right decisions. Do you not see us taking the right steps in the right direction? But if I'm Dak Prescott and I had Amari Cooper as my number one and CeeDee Lamb as my number two, and you got rid of Amari Cooper because you didn't like that he didn't talk a lot, and you shipped him to Cleveland, and then now I don't have a wide receiver one, I don't think I'm taking a pay cut from him. If I'm the New York Jets, Woody Johnson, I'm not taking a pay cut from him. So,
and I get that. I just think when you can't have your cake and eat it too.
I agree.
And that's the part that it's like, you can't tell me you're committed to winning at the highest level when you're not even willing to try and negotiate on your own behalf. Because guess what? What I'm doing in that situation is, if you're Dak, right? Dak, go to the negotiating table. You got power, man. Go to the negotiating table and say, these are the moves I want to happen. I'll do this, I'll take a cut, but this is what the cut's gonna mean. Because that's what Tom Brady was doing constantly with the New England Patriots. That's when Patrick Mahomes signed a 10-year deal, which was unprecedented to lock him up at that time, which, by the way, the Chiefs look like the most genius organization of all time, right? When he's in the bottom half of total pay now as the quarterback. He went there, and you think that they didn't line up a plan for him? They lined up a plan for him. They told him this is exactly what we're going to do, which is why he signed and felt comfortable to sign a 10-year contract so that they could go sign Chris Jones, the top defensive player in the league at the time. You can't do those things without ownership, GM, head coach, everybody on the same page. And that's where I get why Dak took the money, but at the same token, I'm like, Dak, you know what you should do? Get the hell out of Dallas. Force yourself a trade. Go play for somebody else and get out of there and teach these guys a lesson so hopefully they can hit the reset button, because this is too far gone. They ain't winning with this current run. It's just not happening. This is too far down the cycle. You need to ship and trade Dak, or you need to figure out what you're going to do with Micah and try and hit the reset button, because this current structure, I'm sorry, Cowboys fans, it ain't going to be pretty.
No, it's not. It's not. We say steps, right? And I'm going to reorder them again. Ownership, head coach, GM, quarterbacks. Now we got to talk about the acquisition of players. You're talking about draft picks and you're talking about free agent signings, right? Both of them are very important. I'm going to jump straight into it. These GMs and these fans that are supporting these GMs that are extremely passive, Look at the Super Bowl. Look at the free agent signings. Look at how important they've been, right? Look at the guys that people have kind of thrown away, the DeAndre Hopkins, right? The Hollywood Browns, the Kareem Hunts. Then you flip to the Philadelphia Eagles, right? They have their guys with Mekhi Becton on the offensive line. Saquon Barkley was the biggest signing of probably the last 20 years, right? And they got aggressive. They didn't listen to what the noise was about those players. They said, you know what? We have a culture. We're going to sign these guys because it's all about building the very best roster. And I bring that up because it's twofold. We have teams that they float in the middle, right? And this is my quote, that you're so worried about winning tomorrow, you forget to win today, right? We've been talking about the Buffalo Bills for 5 years now. This is the year. Why didn't y'all make that trade to go get Saquon Barkley, right? Odell Beckham went to the Los Angeles Rams. Why didn't y'all decide to go pick him up?
You pick up Kareem Hunt. You pick up DeAndre Hopkins. Why are you making any of these moves?
And that's all of these, Fred, because I even look at the Baltimore Ravens, getting more aggressive in your approach, and you're talking about the difference between $3 to $7 million. If you have, the thing is with the salary cap, P, I don't know if you feel the same way, but when you have good football players on your team, then you have flexibility in your salary cap, because who cares if I have to kick Lamar Jackson contract down one more year? I plan on him being here for 10 years anyway. So I look at that and I say they have to stop being passive, because we've seen it time and time again. New England Patriots, do we remember when Randy Moss went to the Patriots? Nobody wanted him. They kicked him out of Oakland, said he was washed, he was done, and all he did was, obviously one of the greatest wide receivers ever, hook up with one of the greatest quarterback ever, and broke every passing record and on their way to an undefeated season. So that's how ridiculous I think that some of these teams are when it comes to these free agent signings and acquisitions.
Yeah, I think you laid it all out, right? When you talk about the free agents, both of these teams, they're not here without drafting well. And they're not here without free agents. Look at the entire Eagles defense. Young. Basically, call up Kirby Smart because it's the Georgia Bulldogs on defense. That's what it is. I mean, it's about 5 to 7 of these guys. But look at Jalen Carter, a guy everybody had a character issue on. That's a kid who he literally 300-pound plus who cried on my shoulders after he got drafted because of how much shit he took from the outside media. You got to be committed to knowing who you are. You can draft the guys who you know fit your team, who fit your organization. A guy like Keely Ringo, a guy who didn't get drafted till the 4th round, who they said, I'm not really sure, a bunch of people. Yeah, what are they saying now? Going to be starting in the Super Bowl, one of the fastest dudes we've seen over the last 5 years, and was 20 years old when he got drafted. Yeah, how y'all looking now? Howard Roseman knows who he is. He is one of the best. And listen, he's not afraid to move off of people, and that includes Nick Sirianni when he was acting a fool at the beginning of the year. But you know what? I have to give credit to Nick Sirianni for checking himself, getting himself in line, and putting his head down and getting this team going. Because you know what? We were all talking about A.J. Brown and that stupidity. We're not talking about it now. You want to know why? Because they handle that business. They handle that business inside the building. And that's how professional organizations are run. And maybe, just maybe, some other teams could watch and learn a thing or two, because guess what? We saw the best game 2 years ago between these two teams. And I anticipate we're going to see something very similar when it comes to Sunday. So this isn't rocket science, guys. You got plenty of examples of who's doing it right. You just got to stop thinking you're going to reinvent the wheel and maybe follow along. Follow in line. Follow what's working. What's been working and what has always worked. I don't understand. It really is not that hard. But fans, we're trying to educate you so that you guys are able to hold your GMs accountable. And if any Bears fans out there, feel free to fall in line with me. I will be holding Virginia accountable every day that ends in Y, okay? Every day.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Ownership, GM, head coach, players, NFL draft picks, and free agent signings. And guess what? That C word. Culture. It all matters, but there goes the blueprint. If you want your team to be in the 2026 Super Bowl, you might want to get on their ass and tell them to follow that blueprint laid out by the Draft Club. I'm Keith Sanchez. That's Paige Dimakos. Players only. We out of here.